able to, I hope we've been recording since I lost the computer. Anyway, should I ask it again? Did you retain that? Did online
Yeah.
help your theatrical work or not?
I don't know, both. From a shallow, like from a surface level, I'm sure that at times where maybe some cooler, more dramatic roles, where if my name got brought up and they were like the goofy guy from YouTube, like, yeah, we'll pass on him. I'm sure that's been said. What can I do? I know for me that being able to make a living in this business was really important. I've always supported my mom and I feel lucky to do it. But it also made me feel comfortable enough when I started making money from social media to get married and have kids. And having a family, living a real life has deepened my humanity. It's rounded me as a person and it gives me so much more to pull from. I could bring up emotion in a second if I think about my kids, and how deeply I love them and what I would do for them if they were ever hurt or in trouble. So it's been a big win in that way. So I think both things are true, but it's more on the scale of it's been a really good thing.
And I have to say, when you send in a tape or do an audition with some of the levels of feeling and depth that you've done, you think of Jack Lemmon and you think of Adam Sandler. There's so many, Steve Martin, there's so many comedians who have just broken our hearts. And so I think that it's a time when you can, I don't think there are many directors that would say, oh no, they're a funny person. I think if anything, having a sense of humor is terrific. I don't think people utilize their sense of humor enough. Would you agree to that? Being in class and watching that?
Oh, totally. I mean, the weirder the better. I mean, whatever's specific to you, you always use the phrase like, what's your sparkle? Like, what's that thing like that carbonates you? Like, what's unique to you? Because that's the good stuff. That's when I feel like, oh, like I'm seeing something for the first time as opposed to just, another version of something I've seen 10 times.
And I know us working together, it's taught me a lot. When I saw your Instagram, I started following you on Instagram, and I see you with these buddies of yours and in the supermarket, and I learn a lot. I mean, I go, oh, I want him to use that in, and we've talked about that, which is, Josh, can you like bring that personalization of that friend of yours that has the hot dog stand or whatever it is, talk to him, use him. How would it be if you were this was your friend, and to access personalization from your life? Because often how we are with our own people is so much more interesting than what we're doing with a character sometimes, like
Yes.
I had a student that was so interesting when we'd say hi at the theater before class, hi, and I'd notice so interesting. And then she would work and it was much flatter. And then, how
Mm.
on Facebook it says people you may know? And she came up on the thing. So I clicked the picture and I saw her dancing in sunflowers and putting funny, goofy things on. And I'm going, this is who I thought she was. Wait a minute. So I went to class. I said, I looked you up on Facebook, and this is what I opened her Facebook page. I said, this is what I want you to bring to class. And I think when
Yeah.
you bring that extra twinkle that's Josh into your scene work, it's just magical.
Well, I remember you and I saw that great new Mammoth play in Venice. We happened to
Oh
be
my
there the
God.
same
Can you
night.
talk to them about Shia LaBeouf's work with props in that, please? Oh,
Yeah, and it's called Henry Johnson, and Shia is just brilliant in it. And he's playing a prisoner, and the amount of work that went in. I imagine the research who we talked to about the day-to-day things that a prisoner does in his cell, and he's giving these, half a page of dialogue while going through the normal sort of rotation of what a prisoner would do and the way they would work out and the way they would hide things and the way they would take care of their bunk and their bed and their small little space. It was just so specific. And and, and I was so like wonderfully, jealous is the wrong word. I was just so, impressed. And I kind of said to you something like, is part of that just Shia? And you said, yeah, like in a good way. Like he's just totally embraced what's specific and weird and cool about him. And you can't take your eyes off it.
Or he thought about the character. What would his personal objects be that he would have? And what was great about the use of props is he had like 5 pages of dialogue sometimes at a time. And some actors, when they deal with props, they make sure they're dealing with the prop. They look at it, they do something. He was like he did it every day, the cigarette. His main thing was talking to the person. So things he touched, it wasn't like, I will work with this prop. He never even pretty much looked at it except, he was busy talking while he did all this stuff, which was so interesting. And at one point he dropped the tobacco. He was rolling and talking to somebody, and some of the tobacco spilled out of the cigarette. And then 7 pages later, and it was planned afterwards, but not at the time. 7 pages later, he's talking to the guy and he feels some shit on the floor, and it's lo and behold, so he has another task to wipe up the spilled tobacco. But it was done without, look, I'm dealing with props. It was so real. And
Yes.
so it was brilliant. And I think that would be a great resource, is if there is great theater, or anyone, is you actors out there, you see something great, tell your friends, put it on your social media, get people out there to see it, because not everyone saw this performance, and it was worth a year of acting class to watch him deal with props.
Sharon, I don't know if I'm even saying this correctly, so forgive me. How long does it take for you to figure an actor out, like what they need? Like a new person in class.
Wow. Well, I don't know what every teacher feels. My daughter, who teaches with me, and I talk about this all the time, that sometimes teachers are as insecure as you guys. Like, not sometimes, all the time. Like every day I think, oh, I'm just a sham. They're going to find out that I really don't know what they're doing. And it's going to be, how did I ever make money as a teacher? I don't even know I always feel like I don't know what the fuck I'm doing. But then I realized I've been doing this for 45 years, and I guess pretty much I've been pretty good at it. So Sharon, you're okay. And so I have great insecurity, but I know that people are looking at me as a teacher like the way my kids looked at their teacher at school or something. And I have a responsibility. And what is that responsibility? Follow my instincts, follow my intuition. There's no formula. They're paying me to tell them what I think. And if they don't have the same taste as I do, they're going to go to another teacher. So an answer to your question is, you see someone's work, and I just follow my instincts. And it starts with, do I believe them or not? Why don't I
Mm.
believe it? Do I believe that? Like, do I believe they're a real person, or are they acting? Are they in a real voice and body, or are they acting? And by acting, meaning you're just saying words and indicating instead of also feeling something. And so it starts with that, like what you said before, starting out learning to be yourself. And
Mm.
before you play characters who behave differently than you do. And so with a new actor, even if they're an experienced actor, when they start studying, I don't care how famous they are, I'm going to say, do I believe you? If I do believe them, then you question, are they taking in the other actor? Is there chemistry there? Are they bouncing? Are they private? And by privacy, it means we could get up and leave. Something is happening between these two people in a place, and the actors are in that world, instead of watching themselves watch themselves, and
Mm.
hoping that you like them, that they're more interested in what's going on between them and someone else. And I would say those are the first two things I do, which is, do I believe you? And are you connecting? And then and then from there, you again follow your instincts. Like, oh, what's wrong with that moment? What is that? What? And then you try to break it down. Why didn't I like that? What do I think they need? Are they using are they finding what's in the script? It's all about the scripts and the stories. So you want to know, do they see what's in that script? Because I see what's in that writer, and you're not picking up what's in the writing. A lot of people, even people I coach, they don't see what's in the text or the character breakdown. Like,
Right.
character breakdown is all these, adjectives, and people, I'll coach them and I'll say, did you read the breakdown? Because do you think what you just brought in is, and I'll name the 5 adjectives in there, and they go, oops. So I don't
Totally.
know if I answered your question, but at least a
Well,
little.
I know it you did. And look, I remember one of the first things you told me when I came in, and it sounds so simple, but it said so much about when to go back to what we were talking about before, bad habits. You were like, put your shoulders back. Like, it was such a small note, but
Acronym.
it was, I had never, and people who know me, I grew up and I was very heavy set, and I think I just had a part of me after years and years of trying to make myself smaller, and I never felt comfortable putting my shoulders back, and it just
Acronym.
that it
Yeah.
said so much about playing powerful parts and how to just not feel small. And you said, like, even smaller weak characters can be strong, like they're right. I don't know if I'm quoting you correctly, but
I don't know. It depends on the writing. So it depends what's in there. But a lot of times a shy person can still be there with their sternum open instead of like this. It can there's it depends what choice you want to make as an actor. But I agree, not all shy people are like this.
yeah, it just was, it was so helpful. And even, like, there were just small technical things about, I know because I have so many friends who are actors my age, where just suddenly the tape rolls and they yell action, and where do I put my hands? Like, I never worry about where my hands are in life. Like, they're around, they're up, they're whatever, but somehow they go dead as soon as it yell. And just being in class and remembering, like, they can go on my hips, they can come down. You would even sometimes say, like, watch a documentary, like, just watch the way people, where
Sits.
they rest their hands naturally. Like, those things I need to be reminded of.
Yeah, I remember taking my son when he was in high school to LACMA. They had some guy who was a musicologist, genius, wackadoodle, wonderful creature who puts weird sound boxes on the bridges of, and then things sound. I don't even know why we went, but we went. And he was talking, and some of the audience said, "What do you think the key to great jazz musicians, jazz improvisation is?" And immediately, without even pausing, he said, "Relaxation and privacy." And my son, who had watched me teach for many years, elbowed me and went, because those are my two, relaxation and privacy. And what you're talking about is when camera rolls, to feel a certain amount of privacy. But you asked a question, you raised a conversation with me recently about sometimes you do have all those other thoughts, like you have to hit your mark, and you know where your light is, but also you wonder, what the fuck am I doing? And you go out, you're in it, but you also have these directorial thoughts, judgment thoughts. Do they like me? Am I doing this right? When you're not 100%, no one's 100% in it, but you're not in it as much as you want to. You're not private enough within the fourth
Mm.
with your place and where you're coming from and where you are now and how long you'll be there before you're going where and who you're with and what you want from them and going after what you want and being in your own, being in your body. All those things are not working so great. And I remember telling you that Arthur Penn, the great director of Bonnie and Clyde and The Miracle Worker and many other things, he said at the studio when these two very experienced actors did a scene and they mentioned how they were in and out, and he said, welcome to acting, embrace it all, because you're human. You're not going to just be, you'd be nuts if you just were 100% that, in it, and you didn't even know where you were. I mean, you'd be out of your mind. So of course it's the degree to lack of privacy that classes and study and experience gives you. How to, when you feel out of it, how to really notice something on that other person or behind their eyes. To make a choice to pull yourself back into the fourth wall privacy. So you have those little sort of hooks that pull you back in when you feel lack of privacy.
I think the best thing that's come out of doing the work and learning is that I now have a process in which when I do get a role, it's like always that great joke. If you really want to hear an actor complain, give them a part, right? Because I love the announcement. I love the deadline article. I love the congratulations. But then it's like, oh shit, now I got to do this thing. And I, but it comes down to script analysis, which I've learned with Sharon. And it's the not sexy part, like when we see writers depicted in movies, right? They put down a bottle of whiskey and they set up the typewriter and they hammer it out all night and suddenly they have their masterpiece. But the truth is, real writers, it's a year of outline and research and investigation. And that was the part that I didn't know. So I spend that not cute part of really being the detective. Like, what does that comma mean? What does this pause mean? Why did he say that? And who can I talk to that's had a similar experience? Where can I insert myself so that I don't feel phony? That I can really research the job this character does or the relationship they have. And then, we coach and we work on it. And that's the time to humiliate myself. And I say that lightly, is to try things that don't work, but now if I've done all the work, I truly can show up on the day and be like, let's see, I might not walk away gliding down the street tonight because this was the greatest day of work ever, but it's going to be enough. I've done everything in my power. And now let's see what the day brings. Let's see what the environment and the other actor and everything else that comes in.
Oh, good. There's still time. I want one more question, then maybe we'll go to the questions.
Sure.
I want to know your experience with this, but I know that the real chemistry, I mean, the real exciting thing for acting is when you're working with another actor and you're really bouncing back and forth with those two characters are alchemic together. And there have been times when you've kind of done a scene professionally with an actor and you realize we're just doing our own thing independently. This is not, versus when it's really bouncing off of each other. I mean, it must feel completely different.
Yeah, that's the high. That's the high you're chasing.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Have you worked with someone where, you don't say who, but just yes or no? Have you worked with people where you could tell they weren't really listening in the moment?
Yeah, I certainly have. And that's just when, you're serving yourself, you're not serving the piece, the story. And then conversely, I was lucky enough to have this part in this movie with Diane Keaton and Kathy Bates last year. And it was great. And we worked on it. And I remember you said, because it wasn't a really, it was a true supporting part, but it was great, but there wasn't a lot on the page. And you said something so wonderful. You were like, listen, you're working with greats. Just jam, just they'll play and then you play and just go off of each other because you can be really free. And watching Kathy Bates, and I guess this is the technical aspect, but you tell me, Sharon, in a wide shot, the difference between her acting in a wide and how she would modulate for a close up and how small it became was it was such a master class to just see how she was so aware of what was necessary in each sort of size of the frame.
That's interesting. I mean, I know that some people do. Are you sure? Are you sure she actually did something different, or was she doing the same work in the master as she was in the small, except that each take was different?
Each take was certainly different, but
Do you think she held back in the master is what I'm asking?
no, I think there was more in like I think it just felt bigger, I guess, for lack of a better word. And then when it was really close and they could literally capture the smallest thing, it became so small and nuanced. And yeah.
I know I've seen some movies, and I won't say who because I protect people, but the two shot with the husband and wife, this was a film I had seen. They was very emotional. The woman's crying and sobbing and whatever. And in the two shot, it was totally full. On her close up, it was crafted brilliantly. This person won a big award too for this role, and it was crafted beautifully. But it wasn't, they probably did the menthol sticks to match the tears and all that because it wasn't what was going on in the two shot, which was amazing. Because a lot of people feel less when it's their close up. But what I respected so much is that she had to craft that sobbing because she wasn't really sobbing right then. And she crafted it brilliantly. And I nobody else but an acting teacher, I'm sure, would ever notice that there was a difference between the two, but I could see there clearly was. And you'll hear people often say that I didn't have the emotion on my close up. I knew it was my close up and I didn't have it. And that sometimes happens, but you still have to be an actor and craft what is necessary for that because they can always match with the menthol sticks and people shouldn't be worried about that. Not at all. And
Right.
I wanted to say one thing before we ask questions, which is um, the idea, and I say this at every webinar so that I can influence as many people as possible. The people that say method acting, journalists and people that write and other actors, is that you stay up all night if you're tired. You take the alcohol if you're playing a drunk. You're Abraham Lincoln forever when you go home to your wife and kids, which Daniel Day-Lewis, I'm sure, did not go home to his wife and kids as Abraham Lincoln. It's absurd. All of that destructive stuff is not method acting. Method acting, as I learned it from Strasberg, is craft. You know how to carbonate, you know how to be private, you do all these things, and then you wash your face and you go home and you're yourself. This whole idea and the science of it is that as humans, neurologically, we have our life experience and our imagination at all times, even when we're sleeping. So people that say, I only use my imagination, I don't use my life experience, it's ridiculous because you intuit. You can't plug up your life experience. It's there. It doesn't, you can't put a plug in it. Same thing for your imagination. Actors that say, I only use my life experience. Impossible. You can't stop either. So they're both there. And so don't listen, everybody, to these people that say method acting, people can't come out of their role. That person is not working properly. It's ridiculous. So that's what I want. Would you find questions from the Q&A? Do you feel comfortable doing that, Josh?
Sure.
Never really pulled questions from the Q&A, so you're probably better at this.
Sure. Let's see.
And if it's stories from your acting experience, that's great too. I just want to avoid like, how do I get an agent and stuff like that.
Of course. Let's see, what's been the greatest challenge in preparing for more dramatic roles as someone who has an instinct for incredible physical comedy? That was their words, not mine. Um, I would say, the biggest challenge has just been, I feel, I've worked so hard for it not to be a challenge. Like Seinfeld has this great quote, which is find the torture you're comfortable with, and you'll never have to worry for the rest of your life. Like that's why I stay in class. I don't want to go. I that's why I still go to the gym physically, because like I don't want that feeling that I had when I first walked into a gym and my arms were shaking to get a push up, and it's like that. James Brown has a great quote, like you don't have to get ready if you stay ready. Like I just feel like I stay in shape from class, and then whatever the challenge is, I haven't been lucky enough to have something like, you see DiCaprio, what he has to do for something like The Revenant, or what Daniel Day-Lewis goes through. I mean, it's beyond, but um I just, for me, it's a process of breaking down the script, seeing what it calls for, and then doing the research and the work to not feel like a phony. Um, let's see. What is something?
Oh, no, go ahead.
Oh, sorry. Someone wrote, what is something that really helps you to prepare for an audition and separate your audition from everyone else's? That's a great question. What was a breakthrough for me with auditions was a couple things. The first is that they don't know what they want, in my experience. Where I always ran into trouble was when I tried to be a mind reader and go in and give them exactly what I thought they wanted. I mean, talk about, forward energy, like just such a desire to please. Is this what you want, Dad? Like, and they can smell it from a mile away. Instead, now, like I talked about, I do the prep. I have a take on it. As Sharon said, I have my taste. I have what I think is interesting and right for this character, and I go in a collaborative way and say, this is my take on it. And maybe it's exactly what you're thinking, and maybe not. And if it's not, well, I just helped you get a little bit closer to exactly what you want by showing you what you don't want. So, it I had to get out of that. And you talk about it, Sharon, which was like this idea of killing it. Like it's very ego based, right?
Yeah, because there's a lot of talent out there. I mean, I always thought when I was an actress, I mean, I haven't done it for 40 years, but when I was, that I was the best. Like I thought I did. Oh, I'm just so good. I'm just so. And then when you on the other side of the table in casting with the directors, with you realize, oh shit, there's a lot of talent out there. Holy crap,
Yeah.
really a lot. So there's a lot of ways and people that could play this part. Like people often say, I nailed that audition. I should have given that part. Yeah, you and about 25 other people in different ways, so it's very humbling, you know.
I, you I'm going to quote you. I remember a lot of your great quotes. You once said to me when I was frustrated over an audition, or I was just, I don't know, second guessing it, and you said, Josh, this isn't Hamlet. Like you were like, it's CSI Santa Monica. No, I'm just kidding. I don't know what it was, but you were like, it's, she's like, there's 5 or 10 people that could do this role. It just comes down to the flavor, what specific thing they're looking for. And you were right. And it helped me to not take it so personal.
I want to say you're very good at taking direction, which a lot of students are not. And I hope that they stay in class to learn how to notice the little red flag of beating yourself up, being angry, being frustrated, pissed off, getting defensive with the director, wanting to just listen to what they say, and then you'll figure it out instead of while the director's talking, take on the notes and sort of morph into what the director wants. You happen to be great at taking direction. So,
Thanks.
um, can you talk about that a little bit? Because so many actors just, you could see them shut down when you give them adjustments.
Well,
Were you always like
I
that?
no, I would say that I trust you. And when it comes to our relationship, and if I really trusted the director, that I'm willing to try, even if it feels, you know, odd or not the way I imagined it, because I feel safe. I know that most of the time you're right. And at the very least, it might lead me closer to something that really works. And
What if
I've
you're on,
heard this said once.
oh no, go do the quote.
Like, what if I'm on set and I don't necessarily trust the director? Or
I was going to ask.
a great writer friend of mine said, look for the note behind the note. And that sometimes people will they'll know something's wrong. Like, you don't have to be a musician to know that it should go dun 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 dun. And then if someone wrote or if someone played dun 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 dun, that anyone could tell you that's off. So a lot of people can tell you what's wrong, but they can't always articulate it. So if someone says to you, like, this feels a little not right, try not to be wounded, try not to take it personal, but try to look behind that note and say, like, well, I don't know if I totally agree with the way they're phrasing it, but maybe there is something there. And so, you make adjustments to, you protect yourself, right? I mean, if you're working with a director you don't necessarily trust, what do you think, Sharon? I'm sure you've had so many students experience that.
Well, the problem is I've seen actors who say, I don't trust the director's choice. And when I'm on set, say, for instance, and I see the director's right. So it's hard for an actor to know
Mm.
to trust they're trusting or not. I think if you're hired, that you have to take those leaps unless you're at such a high level and the lead of this thing and your level is really, really you're you know if then you can, I guess, have a discussion, but then you can. I know Pacino said something. I did a play opposite him when I was acting in New York, a Breck play, Jungle of Cities. And we were out to lunch and somebody asked him about that. And he said, well, but he was already after Godfather, he was already Pacino, right? And he said, well, if a director I don't trust says do it this way and I don't like it, I don't put up a fuss. I just go, hmm, hmm, let me try that. And I just don't do it. And then after a while they just go on. But he was Pacino
Totally.
after Godfather. Would I advise anybody not at that level to do that? No, because I've been on so many sets where the director was right and the actor dug their heels in. So I would say take the direction. That's what I guess I would say, unless you're at the level of Al, or if you're the
I
lead,
think
one of the leads in something, and you have to stop a set and a crew to argue a direction from a director when human behavior you could do the scene a million different ways. To me, just is a waste. That's my instant response to that.
I think you're so right. And you've said this before, and you're right. Like, unfortunately, the truth is, I hardly ever get weird notes like that, because if they're giving me notes that feel so at odds with the way I prepared, we're in the wrong, we're not playing for the same team, right? And it's not, gone are the days for the most part of, like, you hear those great love stories in the 70s and 80s of auteur directors shaping a performance on set. It doesn't happen, right? There's no time for that.
No. And uh but the idea, the level that you take direction is, like if I say something in class, which sometimes with students, I'm afraid to tell them, some students, I do it anyway because I have to, but I know they're going to shut down, get depressed, get pissed off. I can feel it even before I give the note.
Sure.
I'll give you a note and you just go, yeah, let me try it. And so I want to use you as an inspiration because it's 5 o'clock, which is everybody out there, change the words you use, because I've watched Josh and I've learned from him. When I give direction, you could see he's not going first. He immediately goes, the inner monologue goes, sure, let's go, let's try that. There's replace that shit with sure, let me try it. If you
Mm.
replace those words, everybody watching, in your head for your classes and your professional jobs and your auditions, to sure, let me try it. Sure, let me try it. Sure, let's try it. Sure, let's go. Sure. If as soon as if education's repetition, the more you do that, that will be your automatic response rather than all that, I'm awful. They don't like me. What should I do? I don't think they're right. All those other thoughts. Just replace it with a phrase. And after a while, it'll be your phrase. I believe in repetition of phrases to changing bad tapes.
Yeah, I think so. You're right on. Everyone, I hope you one day get a chance to work with Sharon, because it's a delight, and it's helped me tremendously.
I hope you all get to work with Josh. Thank
Thank
you,
you.
everybody. Be well.
Thank you guys for
Bye.
coming.
I'll see you
Thank
in
you so
class.
much. Bye, guys.
Buddy, thank you for coming.